This video is sponsored by the Wandering Tavern Kickstarter. This is a series where I talk to you about one of the many approaches you could take to creating a D&D character, and then I create a character using that method. Today we're starting with a character's feet. Not their literal feet like the body part, haha, homophones are fun, but instead we're talking about the optional 5th edition rule where your character can choose to take a feat, which might make them better at one specific thing. If you're a GM and you're not sure whether you should include feats in your game, check out my latest video, it talks all about that subject. Also, just like with my multi-classing first video, this video is not about starting with a specific build. That will be a whole other discussion for another video on some other day. Because to be fair, a lot of the time when a player takes a feat, especially at level 1, it's because they have a specific build in mind. You know, I'll take this feat at this level because then when I get this subclass at level 3, they'll form a cool combo or whatever. And we will make that video in the future. But today we're instead going to discuss the appeal of starting with a focus on not a build or a combo, but just the cool, character-inspiring potential of feats. Now, I've never created a character based on their feat. In fact, I think I've only taken a feat once in all of my many 5th edition characters I've played over the years. But I actually think there's a lot of really fascinating potential here for using feats as the jumping off point for a character concept. In a way, feats are one of the easiest methods to use as a springboard for character creation, because so often the feats specifically tell us that a character has trained in some specific task. For example, the athlete feat reads, "You have undergone extensive physical training." Crossbow expert opens with, "Thanks to extensive practice with the crossbow." Healer reads, "You are an able physician, allowing you to mend wounds quickly and get your allies back in the fight." Heavily armored, "You have trained to master the use of heavy armor." Linguist, "You have studied languages and codes." Mage Slayer, "You have practiced techniques useful in melee combat against spellcasters," and so on. Basically, any feat that uses the term trained, mastered, practiced, or studied presents an excellent starting point to establish something about the character, because they tell us that this character has spent a lot of time dedicating themselves to a specific craft or talent. And some other feats don't necessarily imply training, but still offer enough description to give flavor to help you imagine what your character is doing to take advantage of having the feat. For example, Great Weapon Master. You've learned to put the weight of a weapon to your advantage, letting its momentum empower your strikes. That's very visual, and it might conjure a mental image that helps you come up with a character. Mobile. You are exceptionally speedy and agile. Tavern Brawler describes you as accustomed to rough and tumble fighting, using whatever weapons happen to be at hand. Even Lucky reads, "You have inexplicable luck that seems to kick in at just the right moment." The feat may not always necessarily conjure images of a Rocky-style montage or a superhero origin story that led to your character having some specific skill, but even that vibe could be enough for you to get an idea of how the feat could be described or justified in the world of the game, which is still a decent starting point to begin developing your character. Additionally, one criticism I've heard of feats in general is that they kind of focus the player toward one specific talent. For example, as the argument goes, if you take the crossbow expert feat, you're going to put a lot of your energy into using a crossbow. Your tactics in battle will all favor doing whatever you can to make the most out of using your crossbow, and none of that is a problem for most players. However, some players will then get so focused on that tactic that if they find themselves in a situation where a crossbow will not be helpful, then they won't know how to react. Or worse, they'll get frustrated in a not fun way. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. However, the fact that it does provide focus for a character is exactly why it could serve so well as the starting point for the character. Our goal isn't to try to find the one-size-fits-all solution for how we're going to function in combat. Instead, our goal is for the feat to offer the first step toward creating a new character. Of course, later this year we're going to get a new version of the game, and that might mean that these feats will change. We are essentially in the final days of the 2014 version of 5th edition. And you know what else we're in the final days of? The Kickstarter for The Wandering Tavern. The Wandering Tavern is a traveler's guide to an expansive Studio Ghibli-inspired floating TTRPG setting. It's system agnostic, but it does present optional D&D 5e stats, so you can drop it directly into your current game, or use it as the basis for a whole new campaign. There are also rules for airships in case you want to get into sky battles with the Claw Militia, or protect the tavern from deadly monsters. Or you could simply make the Wandering Tavern your base of operations and use the airships to come and go as you please. But your players never have to leave the tavern to have a good time. There's a seedy underbelly, there's gambling, there's actual legitimate food recipes, there's more than 30 new NPCs and 30 interconnected plot hooks, connecting a hook about missing engineers, to the black market, to a brewing automaton mutiny, to the spirits that roam the Wandering Tavern streets every night. And if any of these plots turn violent, don't worry, this product includes maps for every corner of every level of the Wandering Tavern. And there's a huge STL file in case you want to 3D print your own version of the Wandering Tavern at home. It's a really cool resource, and I am so excited to get my hands on it. And you can back the Wandering Tavern Kickstarter by checking out the link in the description. The Kickstarter closes on May 9th, so don't delay. Back now to bring the Wandering Tavern to your table. Once again, please check out the link in the description, and thank you so much to the Wandering Tavern Kickstarter for supporting the channel. Now, without further ado, let's cut over to a character creation live stream I managed to sneak in while my infant child was taking a nap. So rules is written, basically the only way you can get a feat at starting at first level is by choosing the variant human or like a Tasha's custom lineage, but I don't know how to do that in D&D Beyond. So we're just going to choose variant human. So what I'm going to do is pull up the list of feats from the player's handbook. There are 42 of these. I counted. So what we're going to do is roll 1d42. 29, okay. 4, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Polearm Master. We are going to start with the Polearm Master feat. And what we're doing today is we are basically going to use this as the jumping off point for our whole character. Polearm Master. When you take the attack action and attack with only a glaive, halberd, quarterstaff, or spear, you can use a bonus action to make a melee attack with the opposite end of the weapon. This attack uses the same ability modifier as the primary attack. The weapon's damage die for this attack is a d4, and it deals bludgeoning damage. When you are wielding a glaive, halberd, pike, quarterstaff, or spear, other creatures provoke an opportunity attack from you when they enter the reach you have with that weapon. We need to look at a martial class. So that would be the barbarian, I almost said bard. That's not right. The fighter, the monk, the paladin. I don't know that this would really work for the ranger. I mean, I'm sure you could make it work. I don't know how you would go about that. That's not really a road I'm interested in going down. You want someone who's not going to have their bonus action for a lot of other stuff. So I'm leaning more toward fighter for that reason. Fighter or maybe paladin. But you really do want somebody who otherwise their bonus actions are basically going to be underused or not used at all. Now the paladin could use the bonus action for smites, if I remember right. It is hard to pass up the paladin smites, I'm not going to lie. I've made a lot of paladins in this series though, so you know they're definitely well represented. Yeah, it would be a bummer to lose out on that many options through losing the bonus action for the Polearm Master. And again, you could absolutely do that too, but I kind of think I'm leaning more toward the Battle Master Fighter. Now, is that the same problem though? How does the Battle Master Fighter work? Then you're 5 feet, you can expend a die. Okay, that's not a reaction. That's a reaction. Okay. Commander Strike is a bonus. So there's a spread of them, right? We just wouldn't choose the ones that are bonus actions necessarily, or we'd have to make a choice on each one. Yeah, that's a good point. Other people are saying Barbarian is the least bonus action heavy. I definitely agree with Owlbear. I think this is going to be a soldier background, so we're going to go ahead and assign that now. So if we're thinking about a character who is a fighter, or is a warrior, I should say, who is a soldier, and has the polearm mastery. Let's come at this another direction then. That gave us soldier. What can we see in the soldier that gives us some inspiration? I've lost too many friends and I'm slow to make new ones. I'm always polite and respectful. Okay, I dig that. Live and let live. Ideals aren't worth killing for or going to war over. Ooh, I like that. I like that this is someone who has... Oh, that's interesting. Hold on. So this is somebody who is not, you know, doesn't feel the need. I mean, that's kind of their challenge. That's sort of their arc, right? Is like, oh, they're going to have to realize that there are some things worth fighting for. Sort of Malcolm Reynolds style from the movie Serenity. Those who fight beside me are worth dying for. Yes. Perfect. Okay. So they're still going to fight for their friends as needed, which is very helpful for us from a character perspective, right? So if we're building this character, what do we know so far? They're polite and respectful, which keeps us from getting into, if we go barbarian, they're not going to be the crude, crass, Grog, Drax the Destroyer. You know, they're going to be a little bit more polite and respectful, no matter what class they wind up taking. And they've lost too many friends and they're slow to make new ones. Okay, so that potentially means we're going to have a character who is a bit slow to trust their fellow party members, but we also, that gives us something to challenge, right? For me, that says like, oh, that's something for them to work through in the campaign. Ideals, we got live and let live. Ideals aren't worth killing for or going to war over. So potentially going to be a little bit more of a mercenary character, but also not going to blindly fall in line with propaganda, which is potentially very useful. Depends on the campaign. We could sort of put the emphasis on one form or the other. Bonds. Those who fight beside me are worth dying for. It doesn't say friends, it says those who fight beside me, which is a really good excuse to keep them adventuring with the other party members. That's really important to me. That's something I think about all the time. And flaws. I'd rather eat my armor than admit when I'm wrong. There we go. This is a character who wears armor. That's what I was looking for. Some sort of inspiration in that regard. I'd rather eat my armor than admit when I'm wrong. So this is not a barbarian or a monk. Now it could be. And people are absolutely going nuts in the chat about the various classes this could be. Some people are very excited about the barbarian. Some are very excited about the monk. But to me, I like this. I like that this is a soldier or a former warrior who still wears armor. So they're probably a paladin or a fighter. You have a military rank. Oh, hang on. This works great. You have a military rank from your career as a soldier. Soldiers loyal to your former military organization still recognize your authority and influence, and they defer to you if they are of a lower rank. You can invoke your rank to exert influence over the soldiers and requisition simple equipment or horses for temporary use. You can also usually gain access to friendly military encampments and fortresses where your rank is recognized. And if we're talking about characters who are able to still exert influence over other soldiers, who still carry some sort of authority and influence, that to me says Battlemaster Fighter. So that's what I think we're going to go with. So chainmail, martial weapon, no, 2 martial weapons. We're going with a halberd, and then we're just going to give him a longsword as well. Something else to have. Now, he just needs a name. So here's how I name characters, and this is going to be a whole other video. And sometimes I will look at baby name generators, and I'll search for a meaning. Let's look for names that mean guardian. Ranger. That would be so confusing. Hi, my name is Ranger, and I'm a fighter. What? Custodio. Argus is good, actually. Surname, meaning. What else do we want to sum up about this character? This character who was a soldier who lost a war, meaning protector. Ward. Major Ward. Major Argus Ward. I dig it. I think that's a character. Now, obviously, there are a bunch of different ways I could have taken this character. The folks in the chat had lots of ideas for this. Some people thought it would be a fighter or a monk or a paladin or a barbarian. And to be completely honest, I got a bit of analysis paralysis. After all, my goal was to demonstrate how you can use a feat as inspiration, so I used a random feat. But if this was my home game, I likely wouldn't have chosen Polearm Master for myself because I don't play a lot of martial characters. And when I do, I'm usually going in with a specific idea based on the class or the subclass. Like, I have come up with some fun paladin concepts, and I would love to play an Echo Knight at some point, but even when I played a Rune Knight, I found that I liked using my runes to do magic way more than I liked making melee attacks. Or, in other words, I missed having spells. But thankfully, I was able to find a way into this character by making the connection to the soldier background, and then using that to identify a character vibe. Basically, what would Malcolm Reynolds look like if he'd lost a war and become not a starship captain, but instead a wandering warrior, mercenary, and adventurer? What would his arc look like if he'd dropped into a D&D party where he's no longer the lead character? Well, I think that depends a lot on what the other party members are like and what sort of adventures they go on together, but I think that would be fascinating to experience at the table. And of course, you might have had a completely different idea for where to take this character. Maybe you had a different feat in mind, or maybe you would have gone with a different class or subclass or background. The way I decided on these things was heavily influenced by the role-playing potential and flavor text, whereas you might be more excited about the mechanical possibilities of other character options. But of course, that's what makes each of these character creation processes so versatile. We can take any starting point and spin it off in any direction based on what we find most exciting about the game. So let me know in the comments, what would you have done differently when creating this character at your own table? Sound off and let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to like and subscribe, ring the bell to see these videos, support me on Patreon or Ko-fi to help them come out more often, support me on YouTube memberships if that's more your speed, join my Discord server and sign up for my newsletter. All those links are in the doobly-doo below. If you're a GM trying to figure out how to handle feats in your game, once again, click here to watch my video about whether or not you should ban feats at your table. Until next time, play fair and have fun.